So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is our third networking event for the researchers living in North America. And my colleague Jackson Howard and I will moderate today's meeting. My name is Derya Büyüktanır Karacan. I am the program manager of EURAXESS North America. And also I am a visiting scholar at George Washington University, so I'm also a researcher. Our office in Washington, D.C. makes up one of the 9 EURAXESS hubs worldwide. For those who joining us for the first time today, I would like to explain EURAXESS briefly. EURAXESS is an initiative of European Commission that promotes and facilitates the mobility of researchers and their career development. We disseminate opportunities for researchers of all nationalities in all fields who want to create partnerships with Europe. So you can count on EURAXESS for everything that has to do with mobility. As EURAXESS North America, we cover the US and Canada. We are at your service to disseminate information on European research funding and to help strengthen transatlantic research ties. Whether you are an individual researcher or a representative of a university or an NGO, let us know how can we help you. So I will just let you know about the format of the event, but Jackson is going to provide more information with us. The format of the event will be similar to the previous one. This is the third one. And we will have a 10-minute flash talk and then start our networking event. But the networking part will be a bit different from the previous one. Breakout sessions will be designed for one-on-one meetings to let you more time to get to know each other better. After the sessions, we will meet at the plenary session. If you finish your conversation a bit earlier, you're welcome to join us in the plenary session and share your feedbacks. And in each event, we also introduce one of the European scientific diaspora networks in North America or some news about them. So in our first networking meeting, we had Dr. Florent Bernard, the science counselor of the EU delegation in the US. He shared his ideas about scientific diasporas and the importance of networking and teaming up. And in our second networking meeting, research mobility expert and advocate, Dr. Sina Safai, discussed some topics regarding our future career plans. About the diaspora part, DEFI USA, a French diaspora network, introduced itself as an informal group. But on that note, we're happy to share that now they have recently become a registered non-profit organization. And in the future event, we look forward to hosting them to share updates on how the process went for them and highlight tips that they have for the other diaspora networks to do the same. Hopefully, now we have one representative of DEFI here so that you can just ask questions if you want to ask to Lori. Thank you, Lori, for joining us today. And today, Barbara Del Castello is with us. Hi, Barbara. And she is a PhD candidate and a member of U.S. National Science Policy Network, NSPN. She is also a 2020 Science Diplomacy Exchange and Learning Program Science Deal Scholar. And she and her colleagues have just finalized a report on scientific diasporas titled as Science Diaspora Networks. So she will share her remarks with us. So today, even the number is really not very high, but still we look for opportunities to connect us. The researchers hoping your conversations will continue after the event, and that you can turn these relations into research collaboration and partnerships in different ways, of course. And hopefully we will create new connections with diaspora networks in science in the future. And now I would like to give the floor to Jackson for the housekeeping remarks.
Thank you very much, Derya. And thank you everyone for joining us from what looks like all over North America today. and also representing countries from around the world and several different European nations as well. So as Daria mentioned, I'll just underscore that we really appreciate your support and feedback. Our job, as you know, involves assisting researchers and university staff in a variety of ways. So please keep in touch with us through informal remarks at these meetings, sending us messages that we can reflect on and chat with our partners and managers about. Anything you have regarding ideas for us to support you, we want to consider that. And with a few of you, we have ongoing conversations in that regard. So we certainly look forward to following up on those. As you can see, and as we mentioned earlier, the event is being recorded. So we will send you a follow-up email tomorrow with a recording of this introduction component, and the networking aspect will not be recorded. So after the event, you'll also get a brief survey. If you choose to share your contact information in one of those survey questions, we will compile a list of those who have opted in and then send the list of those people to the people that have chosen to share the information, and you can take the initiative to have one-on-one conversations afterwards. You're also welcome to introduce yourselves in the chat. I think Daria will be inviting you in a moment to also just quickly say your name and research field. So sort of through all different media here, we're going to be getting to know each other for a little bit, and it's a nice intimate group. So I think that's very doable. As Daria had also explained, our first 2 networking sessions this year were quite fun. Recordings of both of those are available in a similar sense to today's event. The beginning portion with the main speaker was recorded and the networking components are not. So you can feel free to speak very openly and freely one-on-one in those sessions. That part will not be recorded. In that follow-up email you'll get tomorrow, we'll have links to the past 2 sessions. So in today's meeting, just to elaborate, we're carving out a little more time than the past ones for actual one-on-one networking. So based on your answers, either to the registration form on Zoom or our email outreach to you, where we asked you if you could explain in a little bit of detail your research field and your preferences, we've been aiming to pair you up for brief conversations, about 10 minutes or a little under 10 minutes with 2 different fellow attendees. That said, you never know out of everyone that registered who is and isn't going to show up. So as our main speaker presents in a few moments, I'll be doing on the fly a little bit of rematching to try to find some nice pairs and have you chat with a few minutes for your fellow attendees. So if you haven't already shared your research area with us or your preference as to whether you want to network in or outside of your field, you're welcome to send us hosts a Zoom message or a message to all attendees, just so we can update our internal document and make some pairings. And like I said, Daria will invite you to take some turns briefly stating your name and research field. So please do share any information, including your LinkedIn profile, if you'd like, in the chat. And with that, I will quickly go over to our main speaker. So I will make a note of everyone's chat messages. I'll be monitoring the chat. If you look at my camera, you'll see I'm sort of darting all over the place. But without further ado, I'd like to invite a friend of EURAXESS, Barbara Del Castello, to present the exciting NSPN study that she co-authored. Thank you very much, Barbara.
Yes, hi, and thank you so much for allowing me to show a small taste of the report that we have just published as of last week with our SciDeal program at the National Science Policy Network here in the United States. I want to give a super brief introduction to what we were looking for, why we thought it was important, a small amount of some of the research that results that we got, and also where you can find the report if you're interested in learning more or have any questions. So the overall goals that we had for this report going into it was to understand the lay of the land of science diaspora networks. We realized that there was a dearth of information out there, a critical knowledge gap as to how these groups were functioning and what the roles they played in science diplomacy. So we wanted to understand and characterize how they viewed success, how they viewed any issues or problem areas in diaspora network growth, as well as their impacts on science diplomacy. The methods were, we had a semi-structured set of interviews. We were able to interview 24 managers of 21 networks. If you are interested in finding out more about some of the networks that we have discovered, we don't have a list of the 21 networks specifically interviewed, but we do in our Frontiers paper have a list of active science diaspora networks that we were able to find and research. So happy to send on a link to that. We also wanted to look at the thematic analysis of these semi-structured interviews. So we asked, what were the characteristics? How did they specifically define success? How did they contribute to science diplomacy? What challenges do they face and identify? And what do they identify as their futures? So where do they see potential growth in the near future for their networks? We took these results and codified them, and we're able to pull out major themes that we saw across the board. And just to highlight, this is actually our whole team right here of mostly early career and student professionals. Most of us happen to be in Washington, D.C. at this point in time, which is very exciting. So some of the highlighted conclusions that I wanted to specifically mention for this specific flash talk is the struggle to find and maintain resources. So a majority of the science diaspora networks that we interviewed mentioned that they have very small budgets and limited personnel, which were highly restrictive to the activities that they were hoping to achieve and the success that they were hoping to gain. So we hoped to highlight this issue in also the context of science diplomacy. One of the interesting results that we found was the more highly structured a group was, the more likely they were affiliated with a embassy or multilateral organization or some level of policy on the federal level in their country of origin. And we found that those groups had more success and were able to garner more growth than other groups that were more grassroots, but that did not mean that that was entirely an impediment. We saw a few grassroots groups that were really highly organized, and if they were able to have a good collection of volunteer base, they could overcome that barrier to success. Managers wanted to seek opportunities to connect with their peers on exchanging knowledge and on securing resources, how to maximize the potential of their networks, and also develop future opportunities between inter-network collaboration. So the managers identified that the biggest thing that they want for the future of these networks is to be able to have a strong foundation for their organization, and also to be able to be connected with other diaspora networks. We find that in the diaspora communities, there's a lot of overlap, and EURAXESS is a perfect example of that. There, throughout the European diaspora, there's a lot of things that bring people together. So rather than just having different countries of origins, having that interconnectedness was actually really important. So our main policy recommendations for science diaspora networks is to track a broad range of service accomplishments, develop and strengthen cross-network connections, align criteria of success with the challenges and future goals. So set yourself up for success, identify what those problems are, and set your success towards overcoming those. Characterize and track organizational accomplishments. The more that you're out loud and proud about all the achievements of your organization, specifically in science diplomacy, the more success you're going to have. Prepare future organization leaders. Make sure that those pass-offs are happening back and forth, and publish your accomplishments. Being able to speak out is a major important part of these diaspora networks, and they actually have a greater impact than they might see in science diplomacy. So if you're out there publishing how you're building these communities, you're going to actually have access to more success. So with that, if you are at all interested with some of the things that I mentioned, especially the few that I gave just little hints or tastes of, here's a QR code to our report. We will also have a URL in the chat for you to access directly if you're interested in. And we have the email addresses down here at the bottom that you can contact us with direct questions about the report or anything else that is in line with the communications around this report. And with that, thank you so much for listening to my flash talk. And if you have any questions, I will be hanging out for the network portion of this event for a little bit before I have to step out. So feel free to say hi.
Thank you, Barbara. I think it's a very timely report because everybody is now talking about global talent, diasporas, and the importance of, the benefits of these groups for not only the host countries, but also from countries. And I think, and it's a really long, detailed report. I just read it So for the also professionals working on this area, I think it's going to be a really one of the good and that's for us. Okay, so I would also ask if our participants have some questions. If not, we can go on, and thank you very much for joining again. So do you have any questions? I think no. Oh, Katıl.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Hi, everyone. I hope you all enjoy your summer. Yeah, I do have a question very quickly. You mentioned that we need to publish our accomplishment. I was wondering how are they doing it? Because this is definitely something we miss, and we're still thinking about it because we do have success story to say, stuff like this. But we don't know how to publish. So do you have any tools, any advice?
So I can only say what the other managers thought, but I will say that a majority of them spoke about publishing actively and engaging with the diaspora on social media. So that was a major way of doing outreach. I imagine that many organizations do that. We saw that pop up a lot. Another thing was publishing in traditional news sources. So if you wanted to say publish opinion pieces in scientific journals or perspective pieces, things like that on behalf of your organization, potentially about an event, and some of the, maybe if you had findings, or a consensus that was reached, you could talk about that. And I think another major thing is if you're looking to actively seek out connection with being either embassy affiliated or supported, reaching out to the embassies in the area and actually saying, hey, we're hosting these events and they're very wildly successful. Would you like to be engaged in our next event? And they will also be able to provide a way to hold a megaphone to your organization.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so we can just thank you, Barbara, again, and then we can go on our other points. So I'm just going to make Barbara the pin. So let's go on with our kind of short self-introduction part. We are not too many people here, but I would just like to invite you just to say your name, organization, where are you from, the origin of your country of origin, and the research field, if you're still on the research area, of course. So I'm just going to start with myself, and very briefly, because after this we will, I think Nav Jackson is trying to organize the breakout rooms. So my name is Derya Büyüktaner Karacan, and I'm from Turkey, but I live and work in the US, Washington, DC, and my research field area is international relations, and the research area is science diplomacy. So I would like to go on with Anna, if she is there. Yeah.
I am here. Okay. Hi, everyone. It is so nice to see so many faces, familiar faces today. So Daria, hi. Jackson, hi. Barbara, hi. I think I have met someone else before here too. So anyway, yeah, I'm Ona Ambrazeite, and I am in a very badly lit room right now because I am in a laboratory. So it's okay. We try to deal with it. So yeah, I'm Ona Ambrazeite. I'm originally actually from Lithuania. That's where my roots are. And I study materials chemistry at Johns Hopkins University. And I also lead the Science Diplomacy Committee at Johns Hopkins and also nationwide, so National Science Policy Network and SPN as well. So Barbara is very familiar with our work, and Barbara and I now work on the United Nations Major Group for Children and Youth initiatives as well. So if you're interested in any of the work that we do, please let me know. Maybe I can now popcorn it to someone else. Okay, I see Isabel.
Yeah, very pleased to meet you all. For me, it's the first time to be in these kind of meetings. Well, I'm a German scientist in Mexico. Therefore, I was a little bit strange when Deira told us that North America is only US and Canada, because we are told we are also part of North America as Mexicans. So it depends on the agency. So I'm very pleased to meet you from the north of the Americas and also talk about my experiences. I have here two heads. That means I'm scientist, yes, but undercover, I will say my main activity is now more in research development at my university, and as such to foster and help and support all what has to do with international scientific cooperation. We have already a lot of experience with collaborating with Europeans, but you know, Mexicans have now a special status because of the new administration we have in place since 2018, which is not so open to international cooperation. But at my university, we're doing a big effort to strengthen these relationships. Therefore, my interest was in one place to help my scientists to get better connections to North Americans, but also to European scientists. And on the other side, I'm a scientist in sustainability sciences. My history is environmental engineering, but Barbara, I'm also now doing my PhD in my late age now. My thesis is focused on sustainability and industrial parks in regional development. What is the role for enhancing sustainable regional development? And I'm working on a framework. So I can't forget my roots. I'm an engineer. So what can't be measured can't be improved. That's me.
And for you giving the next person, Isabel, would you like to?
Well, I don't know Clotilde.
We know her very well. Thank you, Clotilde, again, joining us.
Hi again.
The friend of EURAXESS, one of the best friends of EURAXESS. Yes, thank you.
So my name is Clotilde Ribaud. I am originally, I think you heard, from France, a former scientist in Europe. But for now, since I'm in Canada, my role within the University of Ottawa is to connect researcher in Canada, not only Ottawa, all Canada, with researcher in France. That's mainly I work for different programs, work very tightly with the French embassy. So that's why I'm very connected with EURAXESS, because I think just help each other, like what you're doing, and I can share with you what we are doing also. And so really thanks again for the, well, I registered, but for the invitation, and I'm very looking forward to talk with you.
So who is the next cutter? Just choose one. Rest.
Please. Okay, Cornel. I hope I pronounce it well.
I think he's still busy.
I'm
so
also.
You should just let him to be the last one, right?
Yeah, Laurie, please.
In case he can introduce himself to us. Okay.
Hi, hello. I'm Laurie. So I'm originally from France, and I did a postdoc in New York like a year ago. And now I'm back to France, but while I was in New York, I've been one of the co-founder of DP USA, which is the scientific diaspora of French scientists in the US. And I used to work in biomedical science, and now I'm more of like helping researcher, more in the admin part of the science.
And who is the next, Laura? Just choose.
Diala, sorry.
So we've had a nice stream of people come in. So Diala just joined literally seconds ago, so I don't necessarily expect her to follow what we're doing quite yet. So maybe Daria, if it works, I've more or less paired people up. I'm also aware that Barbara and Isabel have some time constraints with their schedule. So I'm very happy to, if it works for you, Daria, you give me the thumbs up. I'll just send people to some breakout rooms, and then you can chat for about 8 minutes. We'll meet again, and we'll switch everyone up. And probably at that point, a few people will have to go. We completely understand. So if that works, without further ado, most of you will be paired now with somebody else. Please go ahead and chat for a tiny bit, and we'll see you soon.